Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Amit Chopra, Managing Director, Shoes and Accessories. COVID-19 pandemic has reignited questions about global consumption. Our today's discussion revolves around India's options and the challenges ahead in India's efforts to boost its manufacturing. Before we move on, let me share a trivia. According to the Chinese zodiac, each year is represented by one animal. According to a myth, the Jade Emperor once invited all the animals to set the order of the years. The years were to be decided by the order in which they arrived to his party. The rat tricked the ox into giving him a ride. Then just as they arrived at the finish line, the rat jumped down and landed ahead of the ox, becoming first. So the rat represents the first year in the Chinese calendar. 2020 was the year of the rat. While 2020 may seem like an epic disaster, but the year of the rat did present us with a new opportunity to change the world for the better. 2021 will be the year of the ox, and its message couldn't be clearer. Success will come to those who work hard, really hard. It's not just about what you expect from the ox, but what the ox expects from you, hard work. As we all know, the second wave of globalization started in the early 90s. Globalization has changed the diet of people. It has changed the way they commute. And it also changed how we communicate. And then COVID hits the world. Global value chains today are looking quite different. What the data suggests is global value chains are in fact becoming more local. Countries are starting to depend more on their own economies. It might seem globalization is on its deathbed. So would the approach that China followed, a global market-driven policy and export-driven plan, still work? And if yes, then how should India be gearing itself to take this challenge? Well, we have a wonderful panel here of industry veterans and the leading figures of the sector who've created amazing companies and proved their worth over and over again in manufacturing and exports. While we also have well-known industry stalwarts, Mr. Subhash Kapoor, convener trade fairs, and I can see CLE, Mr. Motilal Sethi, convener leather garment CLE. I can see Mr. Anil Sodhi, convener raw material CLE, joining in to absorb the views of the panelists. Today, I would be moderating the session on Indian manufacturing and the challenge of unlocking the export growth for India, along with Vikas Bagga, a brand strategist and a business consultant. Let's turn the time to Mr. Manoj Tuli, Managing Director, P&G Enterprises, one of the top 5 manufacturing units of India in leather apparel. Manoj has also established the first and the largest selling genuine leather jacket brand in India, Just Stand. Manoj, Make in India initiative was a good opportunity for us to get our manufacturing sector back on track. The conventional wisdom is we should aim to replicate what China did in the 1990s. But how different is the global environment today? The global value chains from what they have been in the past 2-3 decades. And what does India need to do to attract buyers now? Please.
You can. I think my camera is switched off from the panel. If you can please switch it on. Can you see me, Amit?
No.
I think it's been. I cannot switch on the video, so if you can see at your end, please. If you can, they say it's been switched off at the host, the camera.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Javi, can you please switch on the camera?
Yeah, I think now.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Now. Thank you, Amit. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I just want to tell you about this Make in India scheme, which our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi started this 6 years ago. I must tell you, that has actually got India on the world map of serious buying. I remember doing marketing 6 years ago when Make in India initiative had just started. From that day to today, India has been in serious consideration as an option for buying from China. The world has been dependent on China for manufacturing, especially for our products, for 25 years. But now, after this campaign, I must tell you, we are the second best option, which was not the case before. Before, India was considered as a third, fourth, fifth option besides Pakistan, Vietnam, and other countries, and Bangladesh. But now we are at par with China, and our buyer definitely considers us very, very seriously. And I think it's a good initiative for our country to grow in terms of leather sector, in leather apparel sector.
Right.
So I think just to answer you, Make in India initiative really works for us. I think a future is pretty good for leather apparel sector.
Fantastic. I agree with you on that. Well, let's hear from Mr. Sunil Harjai, Siddhartha Exports, who runs 2 footwear manufacturing units in Noida and exports for exports to some of the best brands in the world. He has been an active member of CLE for the last 20 years or so, a bold proponent of Make in India. There are speculations that post-COVID production from some countries would get diverted. Whereas I have worked with the buying office, so I can tell you production lines and supply chains are far more sticky than most seem to understand. It is very difficult to pull them apart overnight. Vietnam and China offer an integrated infrastructure like large ports, highways, top quality labor, sophisticated logistics, all of which are critical factors to meet strict deadlines that international companies operate on. So, Mr. Harjai, can India match China's integrated infrastructure capabilities?
Good afternoon, Amit, for the wonderful inviting me here on your panel, and good afternoon to all the panel leaders here sitting here. You asked a very delicate and nice question for India. India has a great potential to produce and manufacture mid-luxury product, which everybody in the world is looking for. Whereas to our competition, there is nobody is there. We are not a synthetic leather producer where there could be anyone to compete with us. We have a premium product. We make leather products. Leather products, we start from a segment from $10 to $15, one segment. Another segment start from $15 to $20. That's the mid-luxury. Then it's no end, whichever. So we have, in our country, we have various factories who have been producing for various big brands, the nicest of the world, international brands, high street brands, the chain stores, the simple brands, individual brands. Now, on those bases, hypermarkets also stands. No country in the world can compete with us. We are very sorry to say when people say, competition ne humko maar diya. Very sorry when somebody says so, that subject. Nobody can kill us. It is our own feeling. We have to stand on our own feet and we have to push ourselves and we have to move forward with showing more innovation, more technology, and more sustainability. 3-4 points, and for which we have to show and present a developed product which is equivalent to the international market. So the international market is always awaiting for a nice and new product which is more vibrant. Whereas we have been doing and using our own ways of the same black, tan, brown, and other simple leathers. So do we have to create some more in the leathers, develop a new range of leathers, develop a new range of, innovate a new range of shoes, a product which makes the outer buyers to look like a more luxury product. So we are confident that we Indians will never going to be desperately looking forward for business. Let the flight start. Believe me, there will be unspurred of business. People will going, traveling so much, they will present our product and people are looking forward for India.
Great. I mean, quite a positive sentiment and I love that.
Thank you so much.
It's a good business now.
It is, we are expecting a huge, believe me, you wait for 2-3 months more, let these travel starts, Once these travel starts, they're going to be humongous unspurt of travels. People are going out of the world. They will have a ready to show their presentation. People are ready to listen to the Indians. People are ready to migrate from the other countries, what they're doing it. Because you see, who in the world can give you a nice leather shoe between $10 to $15? Who? No one. Who can give you a mid-luxury shoe product from $15 to $20? No one. We have a quality, we have people, we have professionals, we have execution. We have certain things which we are lacking for. Yes, we have one big thing which we lose one end is because the year we lose in front of China is our lead period. This is where we have to improve. The logistics we have to improve. And then once 2 points of us is improved, I think everybody will say goodbye to China. Let's go to India.
Thank you, Mr.
Surely.
Harjai. Thank you, Mr.
As
Harjai.
you had shared earlier, I feel that this is the time for all the manufacturers to touch all the buyers you've known in the last 10 years, 100, 200, touch them now. I'm sure they are hungry and they are looking for new options.
They are, brother. They are, brother. They are.
Thank you, Mr. Harjai. And thank you, Amit, for setting the tone so well. But I think it's time to dig a little deeper. The next panelist I want to speak is Mr. Yavar Dhala. Mr. Yavar Dhala is the MD of Forward Shoe Limited, based out of Chennai, Tamil Nadu. He is an exporter manufacturer, also has a domestic brand by the name of Azara, which is available D2C in online space as well as selectively in the offline space also. Let me draw a natural analogy. India imports goods and raw material to the tune of about 65 billion. That was the last year's figure. And our exports to China are mere 17 billion. Now, this talks of a trade deficit. This also talks of a dependency question also. Now, in this webinar circuit, in the later part of 2020, for the longest time, we were hearing about this very positive sentiment. It said that there's a lot of potential because of this disparity. Is actually there that lot of potential? What is that we're trying to do to catch it? And how is it that through that process, we could actually decouple the Chinese manufacturing at ground zero? Mr. Yavar Dhala, your views, please.
Thank you, Amit ji. Thank you, Vikas ji, for having me on this panel. It's a pleasure to be with such august company. Am I audible, Amit bhai? Excellent.
Very much so.
Super. Thank you, Vikas ji, for that very thought-provoking question. Fortunately, we in the footwear industry are not as dependent on China as some of our other colleagues in other industries are. The electronic industry, for example, is hugely dependent on China. However, we need to also face up to the realities that face the industry. As the Vice President of the Indian Shoe Federation, I was charged with the task of looking at what we could do to improve India's exports from the current levels of about 2 billion, 2.3 billion to about 5 billion in the next 3 to 4 years. And what I discovered during that journey, and this journey was having conversations with large customers, buying houses, footwear manufacturers like us, and also component suppliers. And what kind of shone through during these discussions was that, yes, India has a wonderful tanning leather base. It's the mother of our industry, and we perhaps are on par, perhaps a little ahead of China as far as leather is concerned. But there are several other areas, and whilst I share the positivity and the optimism of the panel, I think we also need to be a bit realistic on where the shortcomings are. We've talked about infrastructure, airports, seaports, roads, but I think that the question goes down to much deeper issues. And some of the points that I was able to list out during this study and present to the Shoe Federation during one of the meetings was, India, for example, these may be small, but very, very important and critical to get the right kind of product out to the market within the right time. And, India, for example, lacks very seriously on man-made materials. Whilst we are a leather house and this is a leather discussion and it's part of the a leather show, I still think that we need to realize that there is an athleisure product that's emerging in the market, and we, from being traditional men's, women's dress formal manufacturers, need to look out of the box and look at new products, and that's where we start facing the bottlenecks. And performance man-made materials like fly nets, jacquards, stitch nets, all these are new age materials which are no longer considered to be synthetic because they are breathable, they are flexible, they are comfortable, and they go with the lifestyles of the younger generation that are going to be our customers. So I think India lacks that infrastructure. We lack the infrastructure on performance outsoles, rubber EVA, rubber phylon. So we need to work on that infrastructure. We're not very good at 3D imaging, 3D printing to produce and submit prototypes to the customers within a short period of time. Our metal embellishment and trim manufacturing business needs a lot of investment and development. footbeds, comfort footbeds, eco-friendly footbeds are again the need of the hour. So before, whilst we are not very dependent on China, and before we can think about decoupling, we still need to look at very serious efforts to identify the different component industries that I've talked about and look at huge investments to really make that next leap forward. Because if you look at the last 5 years, the Indian footwear exports have been hovering around the 2.3, 2.4 billion mark. They've been going up 1%, coming down a few percent. So there's really no big growth happening in terms of dollars. In rupees, perhaps it's a different story. So I think whilst we need to decouple, we need to look at some infrastructure investments before we do that. And that will allow us to make that quantum leap forward that is so critical for our industry today. I trust I've answered your question, Vikas.
Oh, most definitely, sir.
Thank you.
In fact, you've given a very positive layer to this very positive connotation that was set up earlier by Mr. Sunil, Harjai and Amit. But let me take another perspective. This time from Mr. Mukhtarul Amin, who's our industry veteran. Mr. Mukhtarul Amin is the chairman of Super House and is running one of the big, vast, successful manufacturing houses, as well as is majorly into sports and also owns the domestic brand. Well, sir, positive sentiments need to be backed by positive moves and even progressive policy measures. Well, all that is fine. We know that India still is very much dependent on the overseas market for things like mold, chemicals, semiconductors, machinery, which really goes on to stress that either we are low on our infrastructure or perhaps on throughput or the quality derivatives which are sort of, a big...
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Is it better, sir? Mr. Amin, sir?
Yeah, sorry, if not, I can't really understand what you were asking. It was not audible.
Okay, sir. So let me give the introduction again. Mr. Mukhtarul Amin is the chairman of Super House, which is majorly into manufacturing and exports. I wanted to take another perspective from you, Amin, sir, which is that, positive moves have to be sort of backed by, a very sort of positive policy measures also. That's what leads to progression. The fact of the matter is that our industry is still dependent on the overseas market for molds, chemicals, machinery. Now, doesn't that really sort of go on to prove that either we are low on infrastructure or perhaps our throughput is not all that high, or there are quality derivatives which are bringing us down, or obviously are sort of some bit of hurdle. Given that, what would be your message to the industry and to the fellow manufacturers in terms of what is that we need to do on SOS basis to sort of curb this deficit? What would be your thoughts, sir?
Well, you see, things are changing a lot. Industry is improving. The systems are improving. More than 95% of our industry is in MSME sector. But I'm very happy to see every time-wise that the industry is improving. Even the small scale sector, the small factories are changing, that the productivity is improving. Government is giving also a lot of support. Under the APLF scheme, we do get the modernization support. So the systems are not as it used to be. The productivity is much better now. But yes, we still have to do a lot. We are in an international market. Our competition, the countries which are very efficient, the productivity-wise, they are very efficient. So obviously, once we have to compete with them, we have to work out that what is the best possible way at the best possible cost and to produce the product, and how can we have to work more on our R&D side. We have to be very strong on our R&D, which I feel the industry is moving on that side. As Mr. Dhala said, that we are not very strong on 3D presentation and all these things, but I have seen in many factories this is coming up. The industry has started thinking on those direction, because we know if we have to grow, if we have to be strong, if we have to compete with in the international market, we have to change ourselves. And fortunately, things are moving in that direction. The young generation who's coming into the industry, the thinking is changed. They are modernizing the factories. They are working on productivities, on the qualities. So, and I'm sure this process will continue, and it will we will see more effective, organized factories coming up. And recently, I visited 2 factories, even visited some tanneries. I was surprised to see the tanneries so organized. and so clean. They're now more cautious about the environmental factors also. So things are much better now.
Mr. Amin, that's great insight, but just an added question to this, a brief one. Our base or fundamental essentially is the component industry. What is it specifically that we like you to, suggest to the Indian component manufacturers so that, we can up our game very quickly?
Yeah, the component industry, of course, earlier we was lacking on the good components produced in India. We were so much dependent on other countries for importing even a small buckles or something. But fortunately, the component industry in India is changing now. They are more on the development sites, and we are now seeing every time the new developments coming up. Their association, IFCOMA, is doing a good job. They keep on doing the exhibitions in different clusters, showing the new developments, and recently they did the virtual show also, where we've been able to see some nice products. But still, they have to do a little more. They have to be more on the R&D side. They have to be more on the cost factor. And the Indian footwear industry or the leather goods industry also has to support them, also has to get the products developed through the Indian manufacturers instead of taking it to the Chinese or other manufacturers to get this developed. So the more strong our component industry will be, the more strong our final product industry. So that's very important, that this industry could grow and come up with new products, new ideas, and they should. What I aim to know, they're also working on R&D center. They're working on an R&D center, which is very important, so that they can keep on giving us some new fashionable products, so that we can add that into our final products, and that helps in, of course, growing the industry.
Thank you for insights and actionable, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Just to build on what you just said and what Mr. Dhala said, I have observed, sadly, in the past 5 years.
I want to tell you, you see, the dependency on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, the dependency on the imported products are slowly going down. 95% of sports footwear in India were imported from China, but now it's the other way. 95% of sports footwear are now produced in India. All those soles, the upper materials, now all produced in India. So that our dependency is going down day by day, which is a good sign.
Surely. Yeah, this is exactly what I was about to say, that sadly in the past 5 years, our dependency had gone up. But now it's time that the industry, which you very correctly said, that the industry needs to couple with the Indian component industry, and the component industry also needs to rise and shine again. Let me move on to Mr. Bhatia, Managing Director, D2 International, a leather goods export house based in Kolkata, with deeply embedded principles of Kaizen. D2's customers include brands like Emporio Armani, Adolfo Dominguez, Radley, Marks & Spencer, Debenhams, and House of Frasers in UK, Meyer, Australia. So Rajiv, skilled labor-intensive manufacturing countries dominate, and that's what we are. What about design capability of the manufacturers? In spite of NIFTs, Pearls, NID, FDDIs, churning out brilliant students every year, there seems to be a miss. Most exporters still rely on buyer ideas. Shouldn't we be offering buyers with more styles and ideas from time to time? Shouldn't every exporter make their R&D, as Amin Saab just said, a part of the system? Design creation abilities should be stronger. What's your opinion?
I think, as Amin Saab has said, like in the sports footwear industry, we used to import 95% of the raw material before, and its trend is changing now, it's the reversing. The same way, I think, in the design capabilities, I think we are catching up. Now, we used to depend, I think, 100% on design capabilities of the overseas customers, but we are catching up fast now with the good institute like NIFT, FDDI coming up, and with the exposures of we taking the boys and the girls to the overseas fairs like Maple or Linea Pele, and the others important fairs like APLF. They are getting exposures to the international markets. Now, few of the good brands, few of the good customers, they also understand the importance of these local designers because they are the one who are involved in the product developments. So what they do is like this is what we are experiencing now. They want these girls or the boys who are basically their counterpart in our companies. They want them to travel with their design team.
Lost you.
Can you hear me or not?
Yeah, we lost you temporarily. Please.
Okay. So result of that is when the boys and the girls from this our design team are moving around for a week or 4-5 days in New York or in London or in Paris with the design team of a brand, they get to spend time with them. They get to learn a lot of new things with them. And not only it improves coordination with them, they get motivated to work hard. And then they also try to offer the new designs from their end. Not only new designs, not only designs are important, also in our industry, leather goods industry, the hardwares, the metal hardware play a very, very important role, like the new locks, new buckles, new dog hooks. So ornaments, like the ornaments the women love to see in a handbag. So the hardware development is extremely important in the handbags as well. Moreover, I think the good companies should rather, because should invest a part of their turnover into a good design, freelancer designers, like in our
We lost you again.
really.
Yeah, sorry, we lost you momentarily again. Yeah, please.
So we have also taken a freelance designer from Paris, also from England. So, and after this pandemic, a lot of good designers have lost their jobs or readily available. If you go to LinkedIn, a lot of freelance designers are available. So I think the good company should invest in the design, tie up with the good designers. And if they're working over in England or America or France, if you tie up with the good experienced designers or overseas designers, and then they coordinate with your brand or your buyer, it helps you a lot. Like we have gained a lot by collaborating with the local designers in that particular country. So I mean, designing is a very, very important area. That's where you even if you develop 20 design, if 20% of that is clicked, you get your money back. So, and the customer also get a good feeling that that this company is also giving some value. They are also adding up on the design capabilities, on the hardware, new hardware or the new linings. So, I mean, this is the area where we should improve definitely. And
Right.
come up very strongly.
Right. Thank you. I guess somewhere the industry should push these institutes to also, go the management way of having a semester or a year where the student spends overseas to understand that market and be more, has more idea about that designing of that particular market. Let's move on to, let's go back to Manoj. The Make in India strategy talked about FDI into manufacturing. But if you look at the data and see which sectors have been preferred by the foreign investors, you'll see that it's all about service sectors. If you look at the kind of FDI that India has been getting over the last 3 to 4 years, whether it's Walmart's acquisition of a large scale in Flipkart or that of Facebook and Reliance Jio, all of these are essentially intending to acquire existing assets. None of these are in the nature of building a boat from scratch in terms of typical greenfield investment, employments and stuff like that. While in respect of the FTAs, we now see Vietnam accomplishing a free trade agreement with the European Union, which will offer them 2 advantages. First, production is getting relocated in Vietnam. 2, they take the advantage of the European market as well as the Asian market. Well, while we will keep talking about it till the cows come home. Is there a contradiction between India aspiring to become a linchpin in global supply chains while being wary about trade agreements?
Well, actually, you have answered your question yourself. India is right now a little protective about the back end, which is protecting the MSMEs. As you know, leather industry, 90% plus is MSME, micro, small, medium units. And government is very conservative to protect the industry. As you know, a small industry which can employ 10 people to a medium industry which can employ 1,000 people is very, very close to a government house. So they just are making sure that the FDI that comes into this country is protecting this industry. Having said that, the front end of the industry, which you just answered, the deals like Walmart, Flipkart, Amazon coming into the industry, I must tell you, I had some data shared with these guys. There are more than 1,000 brands launched in India every year when it comes to serving the MSMEs. So MSME today can think of having a brand and selling it directly to the customer, which wasn't the case 5 years ago. So FDI is coming to India, but yes, right now it's coming more towards the front end of the spectrum. It's not coming to the back end, but I think eventually it will come. Now, your second question was that Vietnam is somehow getting more FDI in the manufacturing sector and India is not. I think that is basically the Chinese investments which were being shifted from China to Vietnam. Now, most of the people who are investing are either from Taiwan or China or Korea. That's because of the accessibility there, to Vietnam is much better than, the accessibility India. So I think once we are geared up to reach to those levels, when our MSME becomes maybe a medium to a large unit, then yes, there'll be more FDI coming to our sector also, for boosting our manufacturing productions.
Sure. I really hope something comes to this sector as well. Till that time, we hold on to protectionism.
Thank you, Mr. Tuli, for giving that perspective. Now let me shift gears and get to touch another facet of our industry. And I would like to go to Mr. Sunil Harjai, MD Siddhartha Export Space. Mr. Sunil Harjai, we often hear industries cutting across the board, talking of and rather calling for labor reforms. It's such a big buzzword. So much so that it becomes a hurdle when it comes to fresh investments and expansion. And in fact, one of the big states in the country recently announced labor reforms also. It was met with mixed response. But and of the manufacturers and the business owners would also like to have a more free hand in terms of hiring power also, or everything else that labor reforms typically stand for. But is it actually about labor reforms? Are we missing a point? Don't you think that there's another key issue that also needs to be looked at? For instance, skilling and upskilling. Should we not be looking at that deficit, which is also sort of an impediment for industry? Your take, sir.
So, Bhagat, I think you have raised a delicate question of the labor and the labor laws and the skill. It is all co-related subject which is happening around. Let's take a subject of the labor and the labor reforms, which has to be introduced by the government and which is expected to be introduced very soon, But in 1990, I think when the economic reforms were being introduced, thereafter our economic scenario got changed. So the industry and the people and everybody grew up faster than anything one could imagine. So today we all are waiting impatiently to have the labor reforms to be introduced in the government, whereas there should be a win-win position between the labor management and the industry. And the industry today, various things has to be done. One, we have to introduce few points taking into consideration what industry needs for their benefit also. It is not just the industry has to win by hiring a labor and he can use anything by any time with whatever thing they feel to use them. So today in our environment, first of all, the environment for the efficiency has to be done. That is most very keen important. The environment, once the environment has been created for the labor, for the work management, then our industry is definitely going to improve. Are we looking after the health? Are we looking after the education? Are we looking after the ways how they lived in their lifetimes? Are we looking after the service of the old age? So we also have to give a certain amount of assurance to those kind of people also, besides the reforms what we are talking about. Once these environments are created, I can bet you, I can assure you, our industry would definitely going to grow. We are thinking of again, I talk of China very little, but I'm coming back to the China again. Whenever the industry been set up, a quarter or maybe the 1/4 of the portion has been used for a dormitory for the laborers. The food has been provided, tea has been provided, recreation has been provided, everything was provided to them. Why? It is the benefit to the company. So our labor reforms has to be done. Only one good subject which can be introduced would be, that is social security to that person. And each person working in an organization should avail that social security. We don't say that we don't want to pay to that person. Every factory would like to pay it, But since the reforms are so complicated and so in detail, so whereas our work business is also not 100%, we want to have we can hire the people on a contract basis, on a contract term basis, because our export business is temporary, it is fluctuating, it's not a consistent business like an autopilot plant. We're not making a chappal or a balti put in a dana and then chappal comes out, a balti comes out and trucks loads and goes out. Our is a different environment, and for that environment, we need to have a contract labor. A contract labor is to be termed labor or termed management. So certain reforms we should have to them by the government, we need it, and certain things we also have to create an environment for them.
Thank you. You've given us quite a few dots to really join going forward. Let me now take a co-connected view from one of the industry stalwarts, Mr. Amin. Mr. Amin, sir, while we all of us recognize that there's a definite deficit when it comes to maybe technology, infrastructure, materials, and perhaps policies also. But the good thing is that we all know that it's all work in progress, as in none of this is going to be dedicated to to a corner, But we're also facing another paradox which we typically can't afford to miss or not to look at, which is that typically two-thirds of the manufacturing labor or workforce today is involved in the unregulated or semi-structured or unorganized sector, whereas it's the organized sector which far lesser labor is typically giving us two-thirds of the productivity. Now, given that, it's a glaring a deficit to be looked at. Given that, I think this brings us to a very, very key point, which is where the comparison comes between us and other countries. That where is and why is that there's so much of disparity in productivity? How are we going to address this going forward? And what is the composite strategy to really do that? Because once that is plugged, I'm sure most of the ills are going to be resolved. Your take, Amin, sir.
Well, I agree with you. We have low labor wages, but we do not have low labor cost. This is because of our low productivity. Here, in fact, a lot of trainings are going on. Government is also spending a lot of money on skilling the labor. Training centers are coming up with different clusters. Government is supporting on that. There are different organizations such as CFTI, FDDI, and so many other organizations are working on the productivity and making sure that, helping the industry to improve the productivity, but the process is very slow. And we definitely have to work, and maybe we probably need some more experts working in the industry to improve the productivity, and that's the time's requirement is. Some of the industry started, with the modernization, as I said earlier also, the government is supporting on the modernization, so that is also helping in the productivity. We under the APLF scheme, we get a lot of support from the government, so that is again helping the productivity. We are changing the machines where we have a better productions and faster production, and we've been able to reduce the labor cost. So this is where the industry probably have to work more. We need to have some sort of some sort of rating agencies who can work with the factories, who can do the rating. This is productive wise and the quality wise. This particular factory is AAA or triple B or something like that, as we do the rating, financial rating. Similarly, the productivity and the quality rating agencies are also required. That definitely help the industries to improve themselves. In other countries such as Taiwan, Korea, the small factories have very good productivity, very good quality systems, which is lacking. Of course, definitely it's improving. It's not what it used to be a few years back. It's improving, but process is little slow. So we have to work more on that. And since we are, as I said earlier, also we are in international business, so we have to have our labor cost, our production cost comparable to the other countries such as Bangladesh, such as Vietnam. Vietnam is growing just because they have very good productivity. The labor cost, they have nothing except the labor. And because of this good labor, good productivity, they have been able to achieve to this level. Why not we can't do it? So the industry has to be, probably we have to educate the industry. We have to help the industry. Little handholding is required, and then things will move forward.
Sir, learnings can come from anywhere, smaller country, bigger country, across industries. And I think it's important to adopt those learnings. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Vikasji, can I just add one perspective, please?
By all means, sir. All yours.
Aminji, can I?
Please, sir.
Yeah, whilst we've all talked about labor, I think one also needs to understand that there is a world beyond labor, and it starts from within us. It talks about management, culture, attitude, and perhaps the biggest or the weakest link in the chain is the middle management. Many of our factories underperform simply because of bad planning, because of cultural issues, heavy negative baggage being carried by middle management, and there is no transgression of thoughts and goals from the upper management to the workforce. So I think culturally we need to look at all these aspects too, and of course, whilst we need to look at labor reforms and how to improve their lives and our lives as a result, we also need to look at ourselves and about our cultures in the business. Thank you.
Sure. Let me share this with you. The first lesson I learned in management was there are no bad workers, only bad managers.
Agreed.
And if you look at people like Feng Tai in Tamil Nadu, if you look at Apache in Tada, they're all working in the same environment as we are. In fact, these factories, if you look at the group of Feng Tai factories and Apache factories, these are some of the most productive factories that they have across China, Vietnam, and India. So something for us to learn from them.
Sorry. Amit?
No, move on, please.
I think, can I have one second for it?
Yes, please go ahead, sir. Yes. Okay. Mr. Harjai, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just a second. I think we've been passing through a long stretch of time where we always discuss about the productivity in India. But in the main basic aspect of productivity is, first of all, the class of labor, what we have, the class of management, what we have. But we are not strongly moving towards a time management system. The efficiency of what people have, how will that single person on a single machine, what productivity, what we have. And whereas we compare with the world as with the all developed countries or the countries where the productivity is very high, the reasons of which I could always hold is the time management. The time management is so important with each individual worker on that machine or an operator, which is lacking behind in our country. And the reason behind it, we are losing a majority of business. A small thing which I had it, so I thought I'll share with it.
Thank you, sir. My penultimate question is now to Mr. Yavar Dhala. Allow me to set a context, sir. Globe is witnessing a lot of trends, can't call it interesting, but very varied trends. Be it production, sourcing, supply chain, raw material, retailing, of course, job losses. So there's been an emergence of online players and online brands wherever. People who are sitting on the edge also today would like to scale online. Then also, globally now the vaccination drive is already on. So your country like China, Hong Kong, and Vietnam, which are pretty stable in terms of production, throughput, even retailing for that matter. But sample Europe, look at UK, Spain, France, Italy, Germany. The markets are under stress. There have been some permanent closures of retail stores. The working hours have been sort of reduced. And simultaneously, there's also been increase in the online business also, footwear for that matter. What is happening is there's also now a high demand for book to home collection category, which typically comes at a low price point. Now, given the fact that a lot of Indian manufacturers sitting in India have been traditionally sort of selling huge to Europe, don't you think now there is a need for us, for the manufacturer community, to reorient their manufacturing or the product line and even look at category wherein they can even operate on lower sort of derivatives or lower profits because the market has changed, the consumption pattern has changed. If not that, then do we need to look at newer markets to sustain our export business? What is the strategy in the given time?
Mr. Dhala?
We can't hear him.
I'm terribly sorry. Vikas ji, it's a fairly complex question. Can you hear me now, sir?
Very much so.
Yeah, fairly complex question. I don't know if I would have all the answers. And I think what we have seen in the last 12 months should not become the benchmark for where we want to move forward. I think we've already had a lot of experience. This is a difficult time. This time shall too pass, and I'm confident that we will see different trends emerging in the next 2 to 3 years once we are on top of the pandemic. And India anyway has always had challenges with large-scale manufacturing. So therefore, India should focus, if you look at the customer in a triangle, we should only focus on the mid-segment of the customer. Allow the premium side of the customers to be dealt with the European manufacturing, either in Italy or in Portugal. Let the bottom end of the triangle be handled by the mass manufacturing in China. I think India should focus primarily on using our raw material, creating value add, of course, by putting in a lot of tech, a lot of new features, which we are not able to do, but we should. We should look at women's shoes, and I think we should still be able to offer a proposal that would have a growing market. And online business is a very strange business. I'm in the online business, and we are a dress shoe brand. Dress shoe business online has got its own challenges. If you're a sports brand, you're not a fitted shoe. A dress shoe is a fitted shoe. You need to get the fit right. And still a lot of customers prefer to walk into a brick and mortar store and actually try the product. So online is not going to take over all aspects of life. If I want to stitch a suit or a shirt, I would rather go into a store and try it on. I would not buy it online. So there are lots and lots of customers like me. However, for the ready-to-wear stuff, for casual stuff, for not so fitted products like athletic shoes, maybe there's an online business. I think India should not lose its focus on what it has achieved. We need to improve on many areas where we have deficiencies, but we should focus on the middle segment of the market, make good quality shoes, offer customer the value and aspirational desire with quality, performance, design, features, etc., etc. And what the Indian manufacturer should do is to score over the competition. And I kind of, the word score is speed of response. It must captivate the audience with the product. We must use our origins of raw material, goat, sheep, buffalo. We must develop a good rapport with our customers, an open relationship, and we must be enlightening to the customers. We must be open with communication, share the bad news even quicker than the good news, and we must score over the competition. And I think that's where really India has the greatest advantage rather than chasing the tail and trying to get behind the China wagon. I think that's going to be much more difficult because culturally we are a different nation, and our ideas and thoughts are different.
Very well said.
So no radical changes. No radical changes. You're talking about speed, efficiency, and accuracy. Thank you, sir.
Correct.
Thank you.
We are almost at the end of the session now. So let me just put the last question now to Mr. Bhatia. the future of the industry is difficult to predict. So when you look into the crystal ball, what do you feel? One should invest in value addition, or would lean management would be the key now?
When you talk about the future of the industry, I mean, it depends how you look at it. Sure.
We are losing you, sir. I think we've lost connection with him.
I can hear you.
Yeah, maybe you come a little closer to your system. Maybe it's a Bluetooth problem.
Yeah.
Can't hear you, sir. Anyone else would like to take till the time we've lost him? I mean, should we go for lean management or should we look at value addition now? Where should India, be investing now?
I think we should do a mixture of both. You got to have a complete offer. Lean management is part of it. Value addition is part of it. Design, quality, technology, innovation. I think you can't just go out with one tray of items. You got to have a buffet of an offer, in my opinion.
Sure.
Amit, I don't actually know that the future is not very clear. I mean, the future is very clear. The leather industry future is, Indian leather industry future is very good. We are very optimistic about it. We know that we are heading, 2021 will be a good year for us. And later on, we will definitely seeing our business to grow. And as Mr. Dhala correctly said, that we can't have the option for the lean or the value addition. We have to work on both the lean manufacturing as well as the value addition. We have to keep on doing our R&D and things. So that is,
Surely.
No for the things.
You are one of the most positive souls I know. So,
and I'm very happy that I'm in the right industry.
Oh, wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Right.
We're all proud of you, sir.
Mr. Bhatia, are you there?
You hear me now or no?
Yeah.
Okay, I would answer like I'm very big fan of Amin Saab, Mukhtarul Amin Saab, and I've always seen him very positive, and he has come up from scratch, and as we all know. So the answer is like, as we know, like you said, I said the short term or long term. Short term.
No, we've lost you again.
I don't know what's the issue like. So can you hear me now? Yeah. So short, but long term, I'm very positive because you see the company like Apple. Apple has increased its business in India. So it's a very, very strong indicator. The government is very, very supportive of our industry. The overseas buyers, I had an interaction with a few American buyers, few European buyers, and they are planning to come over to India to increase their business, and they want to visit us as soon as these travels are open, as soon as their companies allow them to travel. So I feel a lot of positivity ahead, as Mr. Amin has said, and I totally agree with him. I'm very, very positive for the serious companies who are serious about their business for the future. As a company, we have invested a lot. I'm sitting in our plant, which we have just made last year. And we are very, very positive about the future. My two boys are back into the business last year. As a family, our whole family is into the leather business. So I can tell you, we are very positive. And this is the time, I think, you've seen the Australia match, India match. We were out for 36 and we were defeated very badly. And we bounced back very strongly. I hope our industry, the whole leather industry in India will bounce back very strongly. And if Chinese could do it, I think we have to replicate the Chinese success. And we all should get together and see how these Chinese, they took these technicians from Italy, designers from Italy, learned from them, how we could make a good quality product. And I think we are also, in last 5 to 10 years, India has also improved a lot in the quality with this IDLS scheme, where we can import the good quality machines, and with the good quality schemes or skill development program coming up, I think we would get there. It's very, so why can't we?
Surely, sir. Surely.
So those are positive sentiments. Amit, I just wanted to leave a thought with the panelists, if you allow me,
Yeah, please.
which is that, I think there's a great role of technology also going forward. And while some of our units are semi-mechanized or very labor-intensive, how is that we could use technology more effectively to derive efficiency and productivity? I think we'll have to consistently find ways and means to use technology also to enhance our game. That's my thought to all this panelist piece.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. And if I get an opportunity, it's difficult times. If I get an opportunity, I would like to pinch an Armani bag. I'll save a lot of money. Anyhow, I would still like to remind you all, in an environment where global balance sheets are fractured, many importing companies are facing severe cash and capital constraints because of the pandemic. One should be very cautious before making quick moves. While the biggest enemy that we have is the tendency to follow the path of least resistance. Let me conclude with a short story that illustrates what I have been talking about. The two chaps went out hunting and they shoot a deer. They begin dragging the deer back to the truck by the tail. But they keep slipping and losing both their grip and their balance. So a farmer comes along and asks them, "What are you boys doing?" They reply, "We are dragging the deer back to the truck." So the farmer tells them, "You're not supposed to drag a deer by the tail. You're supposed to drag a deer by the handles. They're called antlers. So you're supposed to drag a deer by the antlers." The boys begin pulling the deer by the antlers. After about 5 minutes, they're making rapid progress. So one says to the other, "The farmer was right. It goes a lot easier by the antlers." The other chap replies, "Yeah, but we're getting further and further away from the truck." So I hope I've conveyed my point. Let's not pull the easy way and get further and further away from the truck and the real goals and objectives. We do have great challenges and great opportunities. We hope together we will meet them and make this year the best year in our history. It's time to draw the curtains. Thank you, everyone, for a brilliant session.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
evening. Thank
The
you.
last one I would say is, when the skies are clear, the ground is illuminated.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
God bless.